Welcome back. Another episode of TVGP's Critical Misses. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Moonpeer.
I think.
Yeah, we're here at the end of season 23. We hit the big one last time, so we're
Uh-huh.
down for something that is hopefully better, question mark. 2021's The Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad. The one and only.
Correct.
The first
There's
Suicide Squad movie.
no other Suicide Squad movies except for this
Nope.
one.
Definitely not. None of them have starred the
Mm-hmm.
Joker and have been the worst. This is the
Mm-hmm.
one of one. There it is. Um, I think this is probably our first James Gunn movie on Critical Misses.
Think so, which is kind of ironic when he started his career in the Trauma franchise.
Right. That's true.
So I'm pretty sure this is the first one.
Yeah, I'm looking at his filmography here, and yeah, we've not seen Slither, so we haven't
That
seen
is true.
and then Marvel stuff. So
We haven't also seen Super, which he was a writer for,
okay.
which is the indie kick-ass, by the way, stealing a joke from
Right.
the podcast.
Right. Yeah, so I've seen some James Gunn stuff, so I'm kind of curious to see what this one is gonna be like. I feel like one of the things that I do know out of this movie is John Cena's kind of breakout surprise performance as, I think it's Peacemaker.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Peacemaker, because he gets his own TV show based
Right.
on his performance in this.
I feel like this was another. We've talked about John Cena in movies before,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like there's always one movie where someone watches it and they're like, "Is that John Cena for real? Like, what is he doing in this thing?" And about 30 minutes later, you're like, "Man, he's good. Man, who knew John Cena, huh?"
Uh-huh.
So I feel like that was probably the same for a lot of people of just being like, "Bro, for real? Like, you're gonna be in this thing?" And then the thing I heard out of this movie was, "Hey man, John Cena's real good in this." It's like, yeah.
Yes. I can attest to John Cena being very good in this movie. Hey Boston,
Yeah.
what's the rating of this movie?
Ooh. Uh with
And
King
what was the rating of the previous movie? I'm
Oh,
curious.
I feel like the previous one was PG-13.
Hold on, I'm checking.
So King Shark is in this, right?
I'll look at the cover that we use as our poster. You tell me, is King Shark?
I'm not
in
looking.
this?
I'm not looking over there. I'm keeping myself blind. I pulled it up 5 minutes ago and I've already forgotten it. I'm a goldfish.
Okay, yes. Original Suicide Squad was PG-13.
I hope this is
And
R.
yes,
If
King Shark is in this movie.
King Shark is in this movie, I hope it's R. Just for like comedy gore.
It is a hard R, dude.
Okay.
A hard R.
Okay, good. That's exciting.
Which, thank you, Deadpool, for allowing this to happen, by the way. Which is something me and you need to have a conversation on at some point.
About
soon.
how Deadpool is terrible as a character?
About how you haven't seen the movies. Yes.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. I prefer to see like comic book movies that have good characters in them and not the worst. I think, speaking of King Shark, I feel like not having seen this movie, I feel like there's probably about 300 characters in this. I feel like seeing the trailer originally was just like, oh, cool. Oh, there's more characters. Oh, okay. There's still more people here. Sure. Yep. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
There is a lot of characters in this movie. Can you potentially maybe think of a different team of nobodies that King Shark turned into arguably one of the most famous groups on the planet?
Oh man, no, not for DC. I have no
I'm
clue.
not talking about for DC. I'm talking about in general. James Gunn did it for a different group.
Oh, for the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ding ding.
I mean, it's easy to look at the Suicide Squad and say, "Hey, do that." Like, just
Yes.
do that again, please. Have lightning strike twice. Thank you very much. And like, I don't blame DC because James Gunn, like you said, took probably the dumbest group of superheroes: a talking tree, a regular dude with a jetpack, a rocket raccoon, and an alien lady, and it's like the hottest thing.
Yeah. Like, it's unbelievable what he did to the Guardians.
Yeah.
Like, Iron Man the movie elevated Iron Man. None of the Marvel movies have elevated any of those superheroes to the degree that the Guardians movies did.
Right. As everyone was like, who are these dudes?
I remember people laughing about the fact that they were making a Guardians movie.
Oh, for sure.
It is now one of those things where, hey, now they're one of the most famous Marvel properties out there, and it's thanks to James Gunn, who, like, do we need to talk about how he's the new head of DC in this section right now?
I think we mentioned it in a previous episode. I feel like that's kind of the big thing of just like, hey man, you did a really great job at Marvel. Good job. How would you come do that over here for us? How's that sound? Doing that again. Thanks.
Yeah. And also it's a guy who likes his deep cuts, and he is a giant dork, and and he does, make progress towards elevating the material he is given, I would argue. I don't think I've seen anything that he's made that has not been good to great. I'll say that much at least.
And elevating it and kind of treating it like Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, like it's he has fun with it, but it's not a joke. Like you said, respectfully treating kind of the source material. So
yes. Do we want to talk about how this movie got made? Do you remember how this movie got made?
God, I do not. No, I don't remember much about this at all.
This was created and brought about because of the right-wing need to cancel everybody.
Okay.
And they pulled up James Gunn's post from when he was a trauma director. Director.
I remember, right.
When he was edgelord as hell.
Yep.
And basically got him kicked off Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Right.
Because rather than look at the instances and things like that, it was a knee-jerk reaction, and the right side of politics celebrated with joy because they got James Gunn cancelled from a Marvel project.
He made our favorite movies. We kicked him off. Yay!
It was also, I'm pretty sure, because he came out and said nasty things about the right wing, which, guess what?
I mean, fair.
Deserved.
Launch yourselves in the sun, etc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, we're already broke. We can be as woke as we want to be. It's fine.
That's right.
That will forever be the show title that sticks in my head, I think.
Right.
And in response to him being kicked off a Marvel movie, he got given a DC movie instead.
Right.
And that's how this came about. And then while making this, Marvel rescinded the cancellation of James Gunn because the cast basically came out and said, yo, you don't have a James Gunn, you don't have us.
Cast was like, okay, bye. Just like, oh, wait, they're for real. Like, come back.
So, yeah, maybe think about your actions before you do them next time. This isn't no Joss Whedon where people are going to be happy to see him go. This is a different case entirely.
That's right. No one was throwing a party for that one.
Ironically enough, one could argue that the fact that him getting cancelled from Guardians, then doing this, then going back to do Guardians, arguably got him a higher position in DC, and therefore essentially cancelled out the current status of any of the Zack Snyder Justice League stuff.
Right.
Which I felt was a very right-wing talking point anyway, was to try and get the Snyder Cut back. It was on that side of the politics kind of thing.
Yeah, there was probably some intermingling there.
The Venn diagram, it definitely connects, we'll say.
Yeah, I don't know how much it connects, but there was definitely an overlap there, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a circle, but
no.
It's debatable how close it could be.
Yeah.
And in turn, he then takes over the DC universe, cinematic universe, therefore annoying the right even more. So,
Right.
congratulations, I guess.
That's right. And now he's running
Well,
the kind of revitalization of the DCEU. Sounds like they're doing
uh-huh.
sort of a fresh start. So,
This is
well,
this is the perfect time to say that they were hosted by their own petard, and I love
that's
that
right.
term phrase, and I
That's
never
right.
get to use it.
It's true. So this certainly isn't the end of the original run of the DCU films. We'll do a
We have a season 3 already in the
yeah. We
books.
already have a season 3 of the kind of the winding down of the DCEU, but this was not
Uh-huh.
the end. But I think we're probably ending on not the Zack Snyder's Justice League movie, because
Yes.
that would have been an intense end here.
It
We'll
was
end on
something we talked about in our production meeting. So if
yeah,
you're a patron, go listen to that production meeting, because
that's right.
I think you said you wanted to do it last, and I was like, no, dude, we can't do it last. We need to do
Don't,
it. We need to
we
do it
can't go out like
first.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm glad we didn't do it last, to be
yeah,
completely honest.
yeah. And like part of the reason why I'm excited to watch this is because there's this almost begrudging surprise about this movie of like, yeah, all right, that was pretty good. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything, and I had a good time at the cinema. It's like, okay, you sound a little mad about it, but okay,
Yes. This
it's
is a
still a good
prime
movie.
example of hate watching something and then being like, oh no, it's actually really good.
That's right. I don't want to admit it. I had fun watching a movie. That's the worst. Um,
So,
so,
come on. Give me some casts. Give me some ideas.
well,
What are your
we have.
predictions?
I know we have. We talked about King Shark. We talked about Peacemaker. It's got to have Harley Quinn because I feel like she's just in everything.
Uh-huh.
I hope against hope that there's no Joker.
I will please you straight off the bat. There is no Joker.
All right, we got close to getting it in the last movie, but you get out while the getting's good. like,
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think of if we have anybody back from the previous movie. I don't think we get.
Well, you already mentioned one. Harley.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but other than Harley, I don't think we get. Oh. I'm trying to remember literally anybody from that first movie. I got nobody. Hold on, I gotta pull up the article for the previous movie.
I
here.
can give you the previous people if you
Okay.
would like.
Who do we have?
So we have Harley Quinn.
Yep, check.
We have Rick Flag. Colonel Rick Flag, I should say.
Oh, okay. I 50-50?
You
Maybe?
going 50-50?
Yeah, I could see him coming back, but if he doesn't, then maybe I'm not that sad about it.
Yeah. We don't have the Joker, which is fine.
Right. Thank
That's
God.
fine by me. Deadshot, famously played by Will Smith in Suicide Squad.
I don't think he's back. I think it seemed like Will Smith didn't want to be there, and nobody wanted to watch him in that role, so I think that...
That is very harsh, dude.
Yeah, but, like, the problem with Will Smith, and we probably talked about this, 50 years ago when we talked about the previous movie, is that you just kind of get that dude no matter what. So it's not that, like, that his performance is fine, but it's also still just kind of Will Smith. So
Okay.
if he's not going for Oscar bait, then he's just kind of that dude.
Well, he
I
needed a
wouldn't be
big
torn up
paycheck.
if he wasn't there. Yeah.
This was his big paycheck movie. Well,
Yep.
the previous one was.
Yeah.
before he did his next Oscar movie. Enchantress.
Enchantress.
Who was the villain of the piece,
Yeah,
if
did
you
she
remember.
die in the
I
previous
don't
one?
know. I can't
Is she
even
like in
remember if there was that
some sort of
end
canopic
credit
jar
scene.
in a warehouse somewhere?
Probably.
I could maybe see them closing the loop on that at the beginning of the movie. So saying like, "Ah,
Okay.
right, last time on Suicide Squad," and then sort of close the loop, and they're like, "Anyways, that sucked. Moving on." So I
So
don't
you
know.
thinking no Enchantress?
Probably not. Maybe like archival footage from the first movie, and then kind of move on.
El Diablo.
Oh, I don't think so. I mean,
No, I'm also pretty sure he died in the first movie because he turned into the true version of himself to fight that weird CGI
oh,
fight
yeah, that was weird.
in the subway. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so
was.
probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah,
Well, we know Slipknot's coming back. Not Slipknot is not coming back because he's the one who tried to escape and got his head exploded in the first movie.
sure.
Killer Croc.
Oh yeah, I kind of liked how they tried to do Killer Croc in the first
Oscar
movie.
winner. Killer Croc, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I kind of hope they do, because I feel like if there's anybody that can make Killer Croc work, it's probably Zack Snyder and his team.
Zack Snyder.
Yeah, he was, Killer Croc in the Justice League. That's
Uh-huh.
he at the end of the movie he flew down to Batman's house. You know that one, that guy,
Yes,
right?
that was
Yeah.
Killer Croc. Yes.
Yep, the green guy.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
Killer Croc.
No, if
James
James Gunn and his team could, I feel like deal with that character's inherent weirdness and goofiness well enough. Like that's why I'm excited to see Killer Croc. That's a dumb, weird character that
King Shark.
oh my god. Yes. What is up with me today? Too many characters. But like that's a dumb, weird character that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how dumb and weird they make him.
Can't wait to see who you think does the voice on King Shark. But we'll get
I
there.
genuinely have no idea. That's exciting.
It's genuinely great. Stunt
Okay.
casting, but genuinely great.
Sure.
Captain Boomerang.
Oh man. Maybe I always underestimate how I never read Suicide Squad growing up. I always underestimate how seemingly important Captain Boomerang is in the the Suicide Squad. Like,
He's weirdly important in
yeah,
like all of DC stuff. He's like,
I just don't get it, man. Like,
uh-huh,
same like Green Lantern. I don't get it, man.
uh-huh. It's like Captain Cold, though. Like, he is
Sure,
so
yeah.
much more important than people realize, and nobody knows why. Like,
Yeah.
it's surprising.
So probably I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up. I guess let's put it that way.
Do you know the tagline for this movie, by the way?
I do not.
They're dying to save the world.
Great. Perfect. Yep.
Like,
All right.
I'm sorry, there isn't much of a better,
Yeah, most taglines suck, but all right. You got that one.
Uh-huh. But that is a pretty solid tagline.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, let's see. That's all of the originals from
Okay. Well, I guess it's slim
original
pickings because a
Suicide Squad.
lot of them died.
Uh-huh. Shockingly enough, yes.
All right. Okay. So I feel like maybe we get a couple here or there.
Okay. What about new arrivals? So James Gunn likes his deep cuts.
He sure does.
What is your biggest deep cut that you think may potentially show up in this movie? Because I guarantee you will not get the villain of this movie correct. I guarantee you.
That for me is a given, but I'm assuming that means that it's even more obscure than I could even guess.
Likely, yes. I've never heard of this character until this movie.
Oh,
That's
okay.
how obscure it is.
Man, I'm trying to think of my Arrowverse CW show data banks here for anybody else that showed up in one
Yeah,
episode and died mercilessly. You'd be like,
that's
yeah,
where
he's
most of
in
my
there.
references are, if I'm completely honest. It's most
Right.
of that show is where I get my DC knowledge from.
And my thing is always like, oh, you're gonna put Captain Boomerang in
Apologies.
here? Yeah.
Apologies. I forgot we do have one member of the original Suicide Squad back who we haven't talked about yet.
Oh, Amanda Waller.
Ding ding.
Ah, yeah. Man, she was good. If you get a good
Well,
Waller,
it's also Viola Davis, so of
right?
course
So I
she's
mean,
good.
yeah, she's been
It's a
good
given.
in literally everything. But I feel like if you get a good Waller in your show or your movie or whatever, that I feel like that carries a lot of the Suicide Squad because she needs to be that heavy. That's like, hey, we have this impossible, really terrible thing, and I don't like any of you. I'm gonna send you all to die. So good luck. And then they're like, oh man, that lady sucks. Let's do it anyways. Whatever.
Yeah. I've
Credits.
always loved Amanda Waller as a character. She is
Yep.
the shades of grey character that everyone strives for. Like Batman is arguably shades of grey, but Amanda
Sure.
Waller is 100% shades of grey. Like she is a villain
Yep.
doing work for quote unquote heroes.
Amanda Waller will shoot someone with a gun and not feel badly about it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Man,
King Shark, John
King
Cena is
Shark.
Peacemaker. Do we know
Yep.
anybody else?
I don't think I. I don't think I do because I feel like most of people's impressions coming out of this were John Cena's really good. So it
Uh-huh.
wasn't any like anybody else that was in the movie through
That is
osmosis.
correct.
Yeah.
There is a couple of people in here who are absolutely fantastic performances. I think the problem is John Cena steals a lot of the show because it's
Yeah.
John Cena. And nobody expects him to be as good as he is. I came in, I was like, yeah, John Cena's great in this, but I was expecting that after seeing Blockers, sorry, Chicken Blockers, as the movie is now called.
That's right.
Um,
Chicken emoji blockers.
yes. Um, After seeing that, I was like, yeah, of course he's great. Everyone else kind of it was incredible in this too.
Yeah.
So deepest cuts. Just throw me some deep cuts that you
See, the
think of.
problem is, I
I
honestly.
want a Helen Mirren moment.
That's,
I'm trying to force a Helen Mirren
that's
moment.
right.
And I
That's
can't.
right. The thing is like, I don't even know because my DC knowledge is
Doesn't exist.
so. Yeah, like, barely, almost non existent. Like, a lot of the stuff I was reading in DC when I was growing up was when I would go to the comic store and I would buy the thicker, like comic collections. I have the one like where Batman is addicted to pills, like whichever one that the super famous one.
Yeah, you'd get like the trade, whereas the
Exactly.
trade paperback, which is
Yeah,
like this is the first 10 episodes of this arc or whatever
or
it
like the
is.
entire arc altogether. I had a really good
Yeah,
Green Lantern one that I actually really liked. I don't remember which Green Lantern it was, but
don't think it's visible, but on my bottom shelf down there is like the entire run of Injustice because
yeah,
oh boy.
yeah, it's a hot one. So like,
Uh-huh.
I read comics growing up because I mean that was kind of our generation. Like you just kind of read comics, or you read
Video
your
games and
friends.
comics.
Yeah, like you went to the comic store with your friends and you bought one or two of them every once in a while. But I was never. I liked X-Men, and that was about it. Like I liked Batman, of course, because Batman's cool. But like I never really dove super deep into comics, so I've learned so much through osmosis, just of being on the internet for longer than
Yeah.
humans really should be. But even like the deepest of the deep DC cuts, I feel like would never get surfaced as much as some of the Marvel stuff would.
Any actors that you could think of that may be in this?
No. I mean, that's the, like we've been talking about, not to reiterate it, but like the positive and the negative of this has been John Cena is in this and he's great. So like, I feel like that overshadowed everything else about this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is James Gunn really famous for? Specifically, he made a big thing for it with the Guardians movies.
Licensed music.
Ding ding.
That's right. People learning what mixtapes are if they were
Uh-huh.
born after 1995.
100%.
Yeah. Is that does that through line continue here for this
It
movie?
continues in this movie,
Okay.
yes.
I
I
normally sort of chafe at licensed music because
Depending on the use, so do I. There's been a
yeah,
very few times that it is being used well, and I
it's
think
usually
Gunn
used
has
very
used it
poorly.
well.
Yeah. And
Like,
that's part of the reason another reason I'm excited for this is most licensed music is like the most remember remember back when Coldplay's Trouble came out and literally every MTV show whenever there was like a dramatic moment or sad moment that piano from Trouble would start and it's like here we go, Trouble's coming out. I feel like that's every licensed soundtrack for like the last 15 years. Except for one, James Gunn, two, Edgar Wright. I feel
Edgar
like
Wright is another great example of licensed music done very, very well.
yeah, picks the perfect music for the scene, and it's a song that you either loved and hadn't thought about for 10 years, or you didn't know you love yet, and now you really do.
Don't Stop Me Now and Shaun of the Dead is
Oh, it's so
just
good. So good.
it's just so goofy in all of the right ways for
Yep.
that sequence. It's just chef's kiss
Yeah.
kind of moment.
So I'm curious to
Um,
see what he's gonna do. What in Guardians of the Galaxy, the kind of classic rock and yacht rock through line that was kind of go through those movies. I'm curious to see if there's a similar sort of feeling for the music in this, or if there's maybe you go in the '80s for some like hair metal and butt rock or something. Like I don't even know.
uh-huh.
No.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm really excited for you to see this because like James Gunn is a director who's not afraid to push buttons, to
Yeah.
put it politely.
Yep.
Like the first Guardians movie is a good example of this. Like they even reference the fact that like yeah, they're a-holes,
Right.
but they're not D words. Like
Mhm.
they're not they're not your traditional heroes. They are like anti-heroes.
Right.
And this is the Suicide Squad, which is villains.
Right.
But then who is the villain? Is it the supervillains doing the stuff, or is it the one who's directing them to do stuff on behalf of a government kind of thing?
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
that's always been my favorite part of the Suicide Squad, whether it's in the TV show or the few Suicide Squad comics I have read since the TV show,
Mm-hmm.
or since hearing Ryan Scott talk about the Suicide Squad a long time ago. He is a
Sure.
huge Suicide Squad fan.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see what you think of this, because this by every right should be dumb, stupid, idiotic movie.
Yeah.
I think it has a much bigger heart than anyone thinks, and I think it has a bigger point to prove than anybody thinks too.
Nice. That's exciting.
Despite the fact that the villain is redacted.
Right. Right.
I'm saying redacted deliberately because
And especially coming off of the previous movie, which I think is probably my least favorite superhero movie of all time, and it like a shockingly terrible film.
Hold on. You said previous movie. We need clarification. Justice League?
No,
or Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad, not Justice League or Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah, I think the previous Suicide Squad is a shockingly terrible movie throughout.
It is average as hell across the board.
So I'm excited to see someone take that thing and kind of put the James Gunn shine on it. Hopefully.
I can't wait for you to see this.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's go watch the film.
Yep, sounds like a plan.
All right, we're back. Moon, you were right. I could not have guessed the villain of this movie.
Either of the two, let's face it. Either of the two.
It's funny because watching Zack Snyder's Justice League before this, and then the Suicide Squad, it's very funny that it. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys had this in England in the like '90s. There was the Wizard comic book
Oh no.
magazine. Okay,
No.
so it was like a comic book like magazine, but it also had like a price guide in the back, and
Okay.
it is a lot like comic book websites now, where it's like the top 5 worst DC and Marvel villains of all time. Blah, blah, blah. It's like you guys have
Yeah.
never heard of any of these, and it's funny because
It was
you
shelf bait instead of clickbait.
100%, yeah. And it's like you show a list of like the worst villains to Zack Snyder, and he's like, "No, no, no, thank you. I'm not interested." You show this to James Gunn, it's like, "These are my precious disaster babies, and I need to put them on film." And that's what
Can I,
Starro feels like.
Yes. Can I put a vote forward at some point for Precious Disaster Babies being a t-shirt at some point? Thank you very much.
That's right. So like that's part of the reason why I like James Gunn is he's just like, look at these miserable, horrible, forgotten garbage villains. I'm gonna put it in my movie, and it's gonna be the size of a city, and it's gonna be great. And I'm gonna put my brother in there, and he's in this one too because he's great.
Yes. Did you get what it was when it was revealed as Project Starfish?
I did
you
not
figure out what it was?
No, I didn't, and I didn't recognize it until they showed it, and I was just like, "Oh God, okay." Now I remember Starro, because I always get it confused
Starro
with
the Conqueror. Thank you
yes.
very
I'm
much.
sorry, I have to use its Christian name. I always get it confused with the Marvel versus Capcom 2 Shumagorath, I think its name is the like many tentacled thing that kind of looks like Starro.
I know what you're talking about, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so you were right, Moon. I had really no idea. I do want to start here though with the cast because we talked a little bit about that in the first part.
And there's a banger of a cast here.
Yeah, I
let's
just want to
get that out the way.
run down all of these because I feel like we have to talk about a bunch of these characters kind of in the introduction here anyway. We have Margot Robbie as Quinn. Obviously, it's largely the same. Kind of a different take on the character, but not too much.
Yes, post Birds of Prey Harley Quinn.
Right. She's looking for those red flags now and then shooting people. Critical Mrs. Super Favorite Idris Elba has Bloodsport. Who?
You did not see that coming because his name wasn't even mentioned at all.
No, and like, of course it's Idris Elba, so he's really great. And I always think of his character from Zootopia because he does that character really well. But he really won me over at the beginning when he's talking to his daughter about that like TV watch she stole, and he's just like, it's so dumb. It's what your phone already does. Why would you steal it? Like that whole scene.
And I'm not mad at you for stealing. I'm mad at you for getting caught.
That's right. Like, and he's mad at her for getting caught, and mad at her for stealing something so stupid. Like, if you're gonna steal, make it worthwhile.
That might be one of my favorite scenes because they sit down and they immediately escalate it to yelling and hitting things, and then without any like agreement on calming down, it just calms down and they just start talking like rational humans.
Yep. Oh, it's so good.
It's this great escalation and de-escalation, and like everything going on in that scene is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And his intro is really great. But then combined with the intro of John Cena as Pacemaker, where they're literally the same character.
Okay.
What's that? Oh, Peacemaker.
You said
sorry.
Pacemaker.
Yeah, well, you know.
I was going to say...
My heart goes out to him.
We'll get there. We'll get there. He does pace somebody's heart, but we'll get there.
That's right. But I really loved the introduction of Pacemaker of just like, wait, his introduction was like, we're the same guy, like what? And then just John Cena was like, yeah, but I do it better. And his just like, well, I got smaller bullets. I hit them more on center, more Bullseye. Just
Yep.
that, like, um,
And the ultimate callback too, because he's like, I fire smaller bullets that go through your bullets that hit
right,
even more in the center.
right.
Never mentioned again
Nope.
until the end.
Until like 2 hours later, when he's just like, bleh, smaller bullets. Um, I we have talked about this a bunch. I think on the show and off the show. But I really like John Cena as an actor, shockingly. And he does another really good job here. Like, he really gets this, like, bro Captain America. Like,
Well, with zero morals or qualms.
right.
Well, there's a great quote. There's a great quote from him, which I'm sure we'll get to when they're going through the jungle. It's
Right.
like, it, I, I love freedom, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect and preserve freedom, no matter how many men, women, or children I have to kill to do so.
It's just this, like, he doesn't understand. He's just like, I'll kill everyone to maintain freedom. It's like, wait, what? It's so good. Rick Flag is back in a larger and smaller role than I think I was expecting. Is he's not really the focus, although it seems like he is at the once the, like, bait and switch intro is over, then is kind of the lead, but kind of not.
Yes.
It's interesting. I think he did a good job as Flag, being the least crazy person on the team, which
Yes, and also you get the feeling that he's kind of had enough of Waller. Like he's
Right.
here because this is his position in the military, but he kind of really doesn't want to be anymore.
yeah, yeah. I think Waller's character in this is really interesting because
Dark swings.
yeah, and it's like an escalation from the Waller we've seen before in a way that pretty much everybody is like, no, I think you might be going a little too far here. I think this might be further than the mission.
In the previous mission, she literally killed her entire staff. So
Right.
don't even start with that kind of
Well,
like.
That's fair. Yeah, they didn't bonk her over the head soon enough. King Shark.
Go on. Who did the voice, Boston? Who did the voice?
I was trying to figure it out all movie, and I really couldn't figure it out until the credits showed me it was Sylvester Stallone. I had no idea. Such a good... I'm probably not going to win any fans. I didn't really like King Shark in this, except for one specific scene. But
is it this eating the sleeping girl scene?
No, that was pretty good. No, I liked the scene where he makes friends with the things in the tank at the like almost right at the end.
More dumb friends.
Yes, more dumb friends. But man, like, Stallone just gives a hell of a performance. The whole time, and like really manages to balance this kind of like tender, stupid shark soul that King Shark is in this movie. I didn't like King Shark that much, but Stallone puts in a pretty great performance.
He's a shark bow, which is, a himbo, except he's a shark.
That's right. That's right. Polka Dot Man.
So let's just get this out the way right here and now. I'm sure she'll come next after Polka Dot Man. John Cena's performance in this movie is incredible because he's at the front. He tends to steal a lot of the scenes he's in.
Yep.
I think the best two performances are Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher 2.
100%.
They're my two favorite performances. John Cena's incredible, but he's right at the front with Idris Elba all of the time.
Yeah.
I think the subtle performances in this are Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher 2. Like, they steal even more so. Every scene they're in is the heartfelt scene. John Cena feels like he's in the he's in the funny or action scenes, whereas those two are the heart of this team, kind of
Right.
thing.
Also surprising, I didn't realize that until I was looking at this movie, that the actor who plays Polka Dot Man has Vitiglio, and was called,
Uh-huh.
like, bullied and called polka dots as a kid, and now here he is, like, playing the coolest character in this movie, Polka Dot Man,
Uh-huh.
which is pretty great. Um, yeah, this is a fantastic performance. I like this actor. I haven't seen him a huge amount in stuff, but I feel like every time I do, he's really great.
He also steals the scene in Ant-Man because he's one of the friends in Ant-Man, and he steals the
Yeah.
scene in it every time he's in there too.
Yep.
Baba
Yeah.
Yaga.
Yeah. He's so good. Yeah. I like. I. It's really, his character's written super well because you don't get to see him do anything cool for a really long time until they like
Uh-huh.
infiltrate that freedom fighter camp, I think. Um, and all you see before is just like him wearing this dumb outfit, him exploding in the jungle, like all the like
Him
pustules on his
vomiting.
body. And when he does stuff, it's actually pretty cool. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then also Ratcatcher 2, which is just the cutest rat on film, I think.
Yes, I would agree there.
Ratatouille
Get
wasn't
out of
this
here with
cute.
Ratatouille. No, Ratatouille, well,
Ratatouille,
definitely
yeah.
wasn't.
Yep.
Um, and her performance is insane. Like
It's so good.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and I also, her dad in the movie is uh who is it?
He's the director.
Taika Waititi.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really loved him just being like, "What's up, Dad?" And I was like, it's that dude. It's Chappie." It's her. I have no.
IG88, thank you very much for
That's right. I'm just referencing the Chappie meme. Um, her performance is really great. The CG for the rats was really great. Her
uh-huh.
primary rat buddy was incredible. Just like, is that rat waving at me? It's just like, hi.
Yes. I
Just
was like, why is he waving? Because he's nice?
that's
Question mark.
oh, he brought you a pretty leaf. Just like Idris Elba being so mad about the leaf was so good.
Yes. I also
Um,
like the fact that when they're on the plane, he's like, I have a thing with rats. And they're like,
mhm.
why didn't you tell us this? He's like, I am a mercenary. Why would I give you a weakness?
it's, it's a really good, it's a really good line there. The film opens with Michael Rooker as Savant,
Uh-huh.
and I really love this intro because the whole intro, I'm just like, boy, you are scraping the bottom of the barrel for this brand new Suicide Squad.
Uh-huh.
Like, you've got Savant, you've got all of these,
Javelin.
yeah, like Javelin, TDK, which big shout outs to Nathan Fillion for showing up as TDK. Um,
Uh-huh.
you've got Pete Davidson as Blackguard, which I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen Pete Davidson in anything before this. I don't think. Um,
Don't think I have either. I love his introduction where he's doing the wave towards the guns on
yep,
his shoulder.
yep,
He's like doing the little fake out to the
yep.
guard who's watching him. It's like, guys, come on.
Oh my god. Um, I really like that whole, because they do a really good job of setting up Savant as the kind of
A
new
leader.
guy in this squad, and the squad is pretty well set up, and they're gonna go do this mission, and then when they swing over to the other side of the island, it's like, yeah. Anyways, here's the Suicide Squad. It's just like,
Yes.
all right, you did pretty well for that one. Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, um,
Mm-hmm.
just really like leaning into that dirtbag boomerang
Aggressive
thing.
a-hole.
Yeah. Um, Peter Capaldi as the Thinker.
Uh-huh.
Doctor Who showing up with stuff sticking out of his skull. Just
Uh-huh.
real. Number one, I forgot about the Thinker, and number two, he does a great job. He's a great actor. Like,
Uh-huh.
ah, man, yeah. Um, Who else we have? We have I don't think we have anybody else super big, right? No,
Not that I'm
I
aware
think
of.
that's about it. Sean Gunn shows up, of course, making fun of.
As Weasel.
Oh yes, he's also Weasel, but he's also making fun of Polka Dot Man. He's the one that's like, "Oh, you gonna do my kid's birthday party?" That's
Oh
Sean Gunn.
yes, that's
Yeah,
I think that's Calendar Man as well, because
I believe so.
he's got
Yep,
the dates I think tattooed across the top of his
yep.
forehead,
Oh man,
which
that'd be great for him to be Calendar
that's a
Man.
nice deep cut as well to be like you don't even call him out by name, but he's
Yep.
got like
Show him
Jan,
for
Feb,
5 seconds.
April.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, like we talked about, it's goes a long way to set up Savant and set up the whole Suicide Squad, and then they just get ambushed and sold out at the same time,
Uh-huh.
and everybody eats it except for Harley. Um,
And
and
Flag, thank you.
that's true, and Flag, and shockingly Weasel, though I guess it doesn't matter that much in the end.
No, you only find out he's alive at the end because nobody bothered to find out if he could swim. So he literally drowns in the first 2 seconds of the movie.
That's so good. Um, but if you needed a good indication of how brutally violent this movie was going to be, positively,
It starts.
it starts right away, right away, where
Uh-huh.
everybody gets murdered in the most violent fashion. Um,
Yup. I
yeah,
like TDK being shot while he's trying to slap people in the face with
it's
his
just like
arms, which is just.
him thrashing on the ground, screaming as his floating arms are getting shot. Is That's why you get Nathan Fillion, man. He's gonna act all the way in that role.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And he'll do whatever too. Like he really doesn't care.
yeah, it's really great. And like, I feel like we don't need to intro too many of the other characters beyond what we've done, because the rest of it is just the regular Suicide Squad of you're in this prison, you have very long sentences, you want 10 years off, go do this mission, you're probably not going to make it back anyways, bye. um,
Yep.
and they're going to Cordo Maltese to destroy a Nazi laboratory Jotunheim that has
Uh-huh.
Project Starfish in it. um,
Yep. We should mention in the bloodbath at the beach,
mhm.
which it does tickle me that Harley and Rick were there, which makes me
Yeah,
think that they were there as the false. For the audience, they're to be the false. You don't see it coming that it's not actually the
right.
real squad because those two were there.
Yeah, why would you
Um,
why would you kill Harley? She's the character.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
But like in that whole sequence, we do get Javelin giving Harley the javelin and saying you should hold this for, and then dying,
Yep. And she's super pissed
and
about it.
and then literally holds it the entire rest of the movie.
Yep. Hey, she's gonna be loyal to the javelin. Um, I this is I don't I feel like the movie is pretty good up until, because we get like they're camping and they're introducing to each other, and you get kind of the standard stuff here. But I really like the kind of like putting it on the table competition between Peacemaker.
Bloodsport and Peacemaker, yeah.
Yeah,
Are you talking about when they're sneaking through
right.
the base?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're just showboating and one upping each other the whole time, and it's just I like I like the line Idris Elba is like, nobody likes a show, like nobody likes a showboat, and then it has the explosive bullet, and he's just like, that was really
They
good.
do if it's cool.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
just
he's
like,
like,
oh,
yeah,
that's a point.
he's right, they really do.
That's right. And then like the other side of the coin, when he goes to save, when they clear out the whole camp and they go to save Flag, and he's just like, hey, these are all the freedom fighters that are on our side.
Uh-huh.
How'd you get into my squad? And they're like,
It's
oh,
a really nice like
the
flip.
the squad, we didn't see nobody, there wasn't anybody. And then the additional flip, like the hard cut over to her just over like 4 dead people in the river, just being like,
Uh-huh.
bros. What did you?
Yep.
What? Why? What'd you have to
I
do?
like the fact that it's Ratcatcher who spills the beans too. She's like,
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
didn't know. We killed them all.
Oh, so good. Um,
So my
we.
favorite sequence on that whole thing, by the way, is two moments in that sequence I love.
Mhm.
I love the shooting of the toaster to fall the toaster into the bathtub moment. Is a great
That one's
moment.
really good.
But it's in dumb goofiness. I love it when Peacemaker is just walking alongside the cot and he's just like stab, 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 stab as
That's
he walks up the cot.
that made me
It's
laugh
just a great
so hard
moment.
because he doesn't break stride. He's just like, you kind of get the point of the scene by this point where the two of them are just gonna clean house and they've shot a bunch of people, but his just like tick 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 and just moving on. Like it's just, that's such a good shot, man. And I was just when I saw that specific shot, I'm like, all right, that's your bellwether for this movie. If you find that shot funny or not, that's your thing for if you're gonna find this movie good or not. Like if you see that and you're like that was too violent and I don't like it, just like bomb out of the movie at that point because you're not.
Yeah.
The rest of it is
I mean,
not going to be for you.
I've already had the phallus contact, the
On the beach, if you had to
yeah,
eat all these on
that
a
thing.
beach, would you? Oh yes, yeah, for freedom. Like
If this entire beach was covered in them, yes, 100% I would.
the way that Cena plays this
So serious and it's so good.
and like so endearingly that like you believe that he believes it. Like if I had to do this for freedom, I would do it, and I don't care because of freedom. Like that's it's really good.
Oh, that one was for liberty, I should say. That particular speech was for liberty.
For liberty, right?
Because
Oh my god.
I wrote Peacemaker's bag of speech for liberty as my notes.
Oh my
yeah.
god. So good. I think this is where we start as we start getting closer to the city, and this is where we kind of have the back and forth between what Harley is doing and then getting introduced to Thinker and the project. So we see that
Yes.
Harley has been taken to the president of president/dictator.
The new president.
Yeah. Who is
President Generalissimo.
Yeah, he and his country are in love with Harley Quinn for her reckless
Anti-American ways.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks.
So I think this is the one part of this movie that slows a little too much for my liking.
Yeah.
Like, I like the scene conceptually, and I especially like the ending of it. It is fantastic. But this whole sequence, don't get me wrong, that dude is smoking hot. Like, let's not make no bones about it. The dude is ridiculously hot. So they have this whole like love sequence. And it's the one downside of the movie. I think I do like Harley in that red dress, though. I think she looks phenomenal, and I like the fact that she wears it the entire rest of the movie, and it just changes depending on what she needs it to do.
Yep.
But yeah, this whole sequence is just like kind of It's like,
See,
I get it, but
For me, I really liked this scene because I liked getting the inverse of what we usually see from Harley, where it's just this like mile a minute, super fast, kind of making decisions without thinking about them and like just shooting everything in her path. And I think it goes on for a smidge too long compared to the rest of the movie's pretty solid pacing. But I really liked this scene just for having a different Harley than we've usually seen, and then with that payoff at the end of her just being like, her shooting him and just saying like, look, I told myself if I saw the red flags, I would just handle it, I would just get them out of my lives, and I'm so sorry I had to shoot you, but you were really acting crazy, and I can't do it again. It's just like, all right, okay.
I like the fact that she literally says, if I saw the red flags, I'll do what I need to do to end the relationship and kill them. Yeah, it's just like, You know, a little extreme there,
You always
Holly.
just go one step too far.
Okay, I get it. Like, I get
Yeah.
the killing kids was definitely a bit too far. So here is something really interesting slash dumb.
Hmm.
Rick, obviously, they learn that Harley's still alive, and Rick
Yep.
makes the decision to go rescue Harley with the squad.
Hmm.
I like the conclusion of this sequence. I adore. I like the fact that Harley gets herself out,
Hmm.
and then as she's leaving, like they're like trying to climb up the wall and stuff, and she's like, "Hi, do you want me to go back in? Because I
I
can go
really,
back in."
I really like that back and forth where they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I think it was Flag that said it was like, "It's a really good plan." Like they had a really good
Mm-hmm.
plan, and I like her response of like, "I can just go back in if you want." It's like, no, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
I that
And
was that was
Bloodsport is like halfway up the building as well, which I
so,
like. He's just up
yeah.
there.
It's just the
But
like,
this
I can pay
whole
you the $20. Is not a big deal. I was like, no, 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 it's fine.
uh
Yeah.
yeah. But this whole escape sequence, like I need us to focus on this escape sequence for just a
Hmm.
moment here, because there is a theory, and I don't think it's ever been officially confirmed.
Okay.
But do you remember in Birds of Prey when Harley was shooting the grenade launcher and it was exploding in like
Yeah.
clouds of color?
Right.
There is a very distinct perspective shift right here in this sequence,
Okay.
which is when she starts shooting people and we see blood and she sees flowers and
Oh,
birds and
it's so
everything
cool.
else. And I have not made this spoiler. I have constantly withheld from making this spoiler
Hmm.
happen because I think it's one of the greatest moments in video games.
Hmm.
And we've talked about it on the show. And I've never mentioned it on the mainline show. I'm going to mention it here. I
Okay.
don't care anymore. It's a 50-year-old game, and at this point, if you haven't played it, you're not going to. But this moment for me is that Bioshock 2 perspective shift where
Yeah.
you see what it's like through the little sisters' perspectives and you see how different the world is.
Right.
I think this moment in this escape sequence is that exact same thing where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why she's not bothered by the blood and the guts and the screaming and
Hmm.
everything else, because she sees flowers and birds and everything else. And then
Right.
going backwards, is that what the grenades were? Was she shooting sandbags at people
Ah.
in the police station and seeing clouds of color that were not actually there?
Sure. Interesting. Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
I love that shift, that
Right.
change to showing Holly's perspective and just being like, okay, this is kind of cool. I get
Yeah.
it.
Just like so visually fantastic. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about it. But yeah, just a really great scene
Uh-huh.
and just genuinely really cool looking. Like,
Yeah.
what a cool
It's a
scene.
really solid action scene as well. Like for Harley, it's a decent little action scene. Credit where it's due. Margot Robbie got the keys and unlocked herself.
Hmm.
No stunt double in that, like grabbing the keys and
Wow,
lifting
really?
up upside down. She did that whole thing
Sheesh.
herself.
Good for
And James
her.
Gunn said he was annoyed because her hair covered her face in one of the shots, so
Mm,
he couldn't use the shot that very clearly shows that it's hair because her hair, when it flopped down and flopped back up again,
right.
covered her face.
Oh,
So it
that's
looks like a
funny.
stunt double, but it's not. It's actually her.
Good for her. I will never be able to do that in my entire life.
I could never
Dang.
do that, even when I was flexible and young.
Yeah, man. This is where we also kind of start getting the introduction to Jotunheim and the experiments and the Starro the Conqueror and the Thinker and how all of those kind of interact with each other and how long Starro has been under experimentation and how long the Corto Maltese people have been test subjects, which is I like that it has been so long, because it's not just like it fell down to earth a year ago and things are really bad. It's like no, this thing has been in there for what 30 something years, something like that.
Something like
Um,
that, yeah.
so I like that I like that it has been in there for a while, and I like that their plan is largely just like, well, we'll just go blow this whole place up. Like, we'll just line it with bombs and just
Well,
blow
they
it up.
also don't know what the
Right.
starfish is.
Right.
Like they, as far as they're concerned, they're blowing up a building with secrets inside.
Yeah, with like some papers and maybe a computer or two. So I like that their plan is just like, yeah, we're gonna line it with bombs and just blow the whole thing up, and just like, sure,
Uh-huh.
yeah, sure, why not? And that's when
The Peacemaker bomb is pretty cute, by the way.
Peacemaker is pretty cute. That building is pretty interesting. I was expecting them to make the building more of a character, especially since that was kind of the goal of getting to it.
Can we talk about the club scene really quick? Because we kind of jumped over that whole sequence to get to Jotunheim. Just because I like the fact that when they're going to the city to get to the club, to kidnap the Thinker, to take the Thinker, to get him to Jotunheim, to get into Jotunheim. But I like the fact that while they're going to the club, number one, screw that new general for burning the birdhouse, for the record. Horrific scene.
Boy, what a rough scene, man.
But you get Polka Dot Man's backstory here, like when they're in the jungle about to go in the bus, and he does the whole, yeah, my mom was a scientist at Star Labs, and it's like an interdimensional virus, and what...
She was trying to turn us into superheroes, I think was her goal. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, what happened to your mom? And like, she's everywhere, and oh boy, that shot when he's looking back at the team, and they're all his mom.
So good.
Like, which plays forwards when they're in the club, because he's dancing in the club, and everyone around him is his mom again. Like,
it's really great because they flip flop in the movie pretty consistently about whether that's a joke or not. Because when they show it for the first time, it's easy to think that shot with that actress dressed up as all the other characters is a joke, but it's really not at that point. Like, it's a little bit funny, of course, but then seeing him dancing with all of her later in the club is much funnier, and then the kind of payoff at the end is really great.
Yes, it's really, really good. And we did see his powers already at this point, which is when he melts that the guard tower in that like sequence, which is just, okay, I guess you're really, really powerful, and we just didn't know it.
Yeah. We also
Go ahead.
We also pick up the bus driver at the who plays in one more scene later in the movie. What were you gonna say about Ratcatcher?
Ratcatcher's story when they're on the bus is
so well
she
shot.
Has the connection with Bloodsport. I like the fact that he says, "Don't worry, I'll get you out alive," and she says, "No, don't you worry, I'll get you out alive." And both kind of happen, which is a nice little touch.
Yeah.
And in the club, Peacemaker says, "Hey, ma'am, you forgot the rat," and gets the rat a shot.
Forgot about that.
Like, again, Peacemaker becoming slightly more endearing. The like complete D-bag moments followed by moments of genuine like humility.
Right. I gotta watch that Peacemaker show, man.
I know, it's the worst thing. Like, the first time I saw this movie, I was like, okay, they're doing a Peacemaker show, I might watch it. Yeah. Now I'm like, I really should go watch it, because you know what the funny thing is? I believe the first season at least is a prequel, so it's set before this movie. Oh
wow, okay.
And
interesting.
He has his mascot, which is a bald eagle.
That's so good. Oh my god, I love it. So,
I'm just saying, a Peacemaker show may be on my docket at some point.
Yeah.
Soonish.
Yeah, ditto. So they're in Jotunheim. We get that little scene with King Shark and the big dumb friends.
And the Thinker explains to Bloodsport, and I think it's Ratcat. No, it's Bloodsport and Flag, and then Peacemaker sneaks in too. About, hey, by the way, this is all because of the American government.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
By the by, you guys are here on probably a different mission than you're expecting to be. Yeah. And going through the history of that is interesting, the discovery, and then kind of seeing all of those people with the small starfish on their face being experimented on, and then getting into the next room where it's like, oh, these are the real bad, like, half people with the starfish working
Oh.
on them. It's like, oh,
Like
that's
the practical effects is so gross because like it's also got like them stretched out with just the
yep.
tendrils into this melted face.
That
You
one
got like
specifically was like, oof, you got it. You got me. Like, I'm not squeamish about
uh
very much stuff, but that one
like
was
the one chopped in half didn't bother me at all.
no.
That
We
one
watched we
did.
watched the last movie, but yeah, that one. Oof, real super good effects in this movie,
Uh-huh.
especially that, and then kind of the ending stuff. Um, and yeah, they find out that the real objective is to destroy the evidence of the U.S.'s involvement. Waller's real goal is to destroy all of that, and that's kind of the actual objective that Peacemaker has was, I've got
Make
this
sure they don't find out the American government did it,
right,
and if they do, take care of it.
right. Um, and I like that you're starting to consistently get all of these characters being the good guy for a little bit, where it's like, no, I think we have to tell everybody this is all really bad. And you see them, coming back a little bit later on. But um, I like this back and forth between so many of the characters here as Jotunheim starts to explode. We got that, we skipped over it, but we got the scene where the bus driver died, and everyone's like, wait, who was that? Who's that dude?
Uh-huh.
And Harley's like, he's been with us the whole time. Like, he drove the bus. Like,
No. Polka Dot Man says that. Harley's
oh
still
right,
trying to figure out who
right,
he is.
yeah. Polka Dot
Because
Man
Harley
was
and
just like,
Bloodsport are like, wait, he was where? What? How?
he's,
Huh?
he's with us when, um, and uh, as I really like, there's Peter Capaldi's really good in this. I really like his scream as he gets pulled under by by
Starro.
Starro. And I
Uh-huh.
was just like, that's a pretty good end for him. And it's like, oh no, he's still in the movie. Oh, he gets 100% ripped in half and then splatted on a window. Good. Great.
Uh-huh. He
That's a
gets
very good
flied,
shot.
like he just the speed because it doesn't look like a powerful throw, but then when it cuts to the inside of that room and it's just like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, that place is big. Sorrow is very
Uh-huh.
large.
So Peacemaker and Flag get in a fight. It's a really good fight sequence, including the shot in the helmet where it's like
That
the
shot in the
camera
helmet, man.
rotating.
I thought they were
It's
gonna have that be the entire fight scene, and it goes on for way longer than I thought, and I really like that shot a whole lot. And I like that neither one of them is in very good shape. Because Flag gets impaled by something, and like as Peacemaker's waking up, Flag is pulling something out of himself. Um,
it's a pretty close fight, and then
mhm.
basically Flag has Peacemaker pinned in the shower stall, and
Yeah,
then Peacemaker grabs the big shard of tile and then just stabs him in the chest with it.
yeah. You get the like Mortal Kombat internal heart beating
Uh-huh.
shot. Um, it's a bummer to see
I
Flag
was gonna
get
say, were you
killed.
expecting Flag to go?
Yeah, I was sort of expecting him to be the one that was driving the leverage of the hard drive, kind of throughout the rest of the movie. It's a bummer to see him die, but thankfully Peacemaker nearly immediately gets his in a standoff between him and Bloodsport, um,
Uh-huh.
with the
So, how did you feel about like number one, the title cards? Like, I love the
yeah.
in world title cards. The At the very start, you've got the 3 months earlier with the
Hmm.
the bubbles on the soap. You've got Meanwhile, Harley in
Right.
like Fire,
Operation
Operation
Jotunheim.
Jotunheim.
Yeah,
Like,
I thought they were. I wasn't really a big fan of the first one, the like 3 months earlier one. I was like, that's
oh,
you're kind of. I feel like you're stretching a little bit too much for it, about it, but I liked it more and more as the movie went on. I thought it was a cool. I wouldn't have minded if they just did like a font on the screen and called it a day, but I think
yeah.
having a little bit of fun with it, I think went a long way and kind of made the movie a little bit more
Uh-huh.
interesting.
And I do like the fact that like in this whole sequence, like Ratcatcher gets the data, runs
Mhm.
away from Peacemaker, and then when Peacemaker's like got her dead to rights and is about to shoot her, that's when Bloodsport literally does the superhero entrance on a like a piece of floor through the
Right.
ceiling, like
Yep.
lands, and then it does the whole like 90 minutes earlier, and that's when it shoots back to King Shark and the scene with Maurice or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and it does that whole build back up again to this moment where then
Yep.
Bloodsport does the multiple floor landings, and then yeah, smaller bullets.
I I kind of like how the movie. I'm usually annoyed by movies doing this, where you get to like the the apex of a scene where there's kind of like emotional or action wise, and then it kind of rewinds a little bit to say like, well, that's not what actually happened. I think we were a little bit frustrated about that in Birds of Prey, where it's like, oh, we're finally
Uh-huh.
getting to the good part, and then it just kind of the tape rewinds a little bit. I feel like it's done way better in this movie, where you're kind of,
Yeah.
it's not always like you didn't get the full story, like specifically in this scene you didn't get the full story and they rewound to talk about the other half of the squad that's doing something else, and then having both of their stories kind of connect at the same time. That felt like a
Yeah.
much better payoff than the Birds of Prey payoff, where it's just like, all right, we're getting to something good, and then and it's like, okay, all right, come on.
Hmm.
Yeah, we get
Well,
the
it's also because it does the whole thing too of like actually I think this moment with the Bloodsport entrance, I think it says 8 minutes earlier, which is
Mhm.
a really good time frame, and then
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that exact sequence is 8 minutes long
Okay.
until he lands on the actual floor, which
Right.
is always a chef's kiss for me when you give a timer and then you hit that exact time in the actual
Right.
movie. Like I always love that stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, that Harley with the javelin still, by the way, again
Mhm.
saving her life by jumping across the huge gaps and everything else.
Yep.
Peacemaker gets shot in the neck, and then oh by the way, Starro is free.
Yeah, I really like how they made how
And it's Milton, by
detailed.
the way, was that guy's name.
Oh, Milton, Milton, yeah. I really like how detailed they made Starro. Like, I don't think they needed to make it look as rough and bumpy as it does, but I
Uh-huh.
think that adds a lot to it instead of it just looking like a PS2 CG starfish. Um, I feel like they did enough work to be like, all right, yeah, that kind of looks gross and believable and huge. Um, and
I
I
like the fact that like at this point Waller's like, cool, you guys have done what you need to do, that everything is taken care of. Let's get out of there. And they're like, dude, there's a kaiju, like
I love that
in this situation.
the
The
tech
guy on
guy
the
being like,
satellite
"There's a
says it.
kaiju."
Like,
Oh, so
and
good.
she's like, yeah, yeah, I don't care. Go, let's go home.
They're no friends of the U.S. anymore, so that's not a focus of
Mhm.
ours. And everybody's like,
Yeah,
"Bro, it's like a 7-story starfish that's attacking this
uh-huh.
island. Like, come on."
And then Bloodsport does what she said she would do. He becomes a leader, and like he's like, okay, we'll go do it. She
Mm-hmm.
loses her mind and is about to start killing them all, and that is when she gets golfed.
Mm-hmm. I really I wasn't expecting her to be so unhinged, and I think Viola Davis plays it so well that like that's her
Uh-huh.
breaking point for this mission of like everything has gone wrong the entire time and she's just trying to do the thing that she's been told to do, and like all of these people are just being goody two shoes about it in her eyes. So like she's just gonna start mashing all those buttons. Like just let's start popping heads here. And thankfully her team takes her out. And
Yes, and the woman at the back, and I think it's the woman who actually does the golfing, who like shouts at that dude, is like, "Get on the satellite, Davis! God damn it!" And it's just
right.
like,
That's
great.
Just like get back to work, man. And then we get this big extended fight scene there where kind of everybody gets a chance to do everything while they're avoiding the little starfish, and they're trying not to kill the people of the island that are being taken over. The voice for Starro,
It's someone different as well all of the time. Like the woman, I think nails it.
So good.
When the woman says, "This is my city," and then just leaves them alone, it's just like, Well, I do like the fact that Bloodsport clicks it and then says, "Cover your faces." I think it's Bloodsport.
No, it was Ratcatcher, because she puts on the
she
gas
puts on
mask.
her mask, which is a great moment. Like when she pulls that down, it's really solid.
Yeah, and this is a pretty great fight scene. You get to see people do stuff all the time. King Shark gets to nom a giant starfish. And then as the chips are kind of down, Ratcatcher...
Polka Dot does the whole, well, Bloodsport says to Polka Dot Man, like, "Look, it's your mom," and that's when we get the camera cut to her.
It was really
that actress is huge.
Yeah.
And he dissolves a leg, which is just...
It was really good. Just
gross.
And then, like, immediately gets smushed.
Well, he gets smushed when he's celebrating because he's a superhero. Like, it's his one moment of peace right before he dies. And
it's so good.
Again, that performance is fantastic. The whole way through the movie, and then his delivery on the "I'm a superhero" line is just chef's kiss, even though, he does get smushed instantaneously.
Yeah. And I like seeing Ratcatcher getting kind of her big moment, because she's been helpful and good and powerful the entire movie, but just seeing that wave of rats, and it
because like I think it's Starro says like, "This is my city again," and she's like, "No, this is not your city. It's not my city. It's not our city. It's their city." And the same could be said about every single city on the planet.
Right. But seeing them kind of make their way up Starro and seeing it kind of like try to brush off all these rats is such a great shot. I think only beaten for me, one of my favorite shots in this movie is once you see Harley pull out the javelin and start climbing up the building, you're like, all right, I could see what's coming here, and it's probably going to be pretty gross. But that shot when she breaks the surface of the eye and dives into it, that's a hell of a shot, man. Like,
it's a great shot, and it's gross at the same time.
It's so gross, and it's so one of those like shockingly pretty shots, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's still like this giant starfish's eyeball. Gross.
And then the rats go into the brain matter and everything else.
Yeah, it's just, that eye filling up with blood is just like, oh boy, okay. Oof. All right.
Blood and rats, like you can see the rats floating around in the blood too.
Oh man, yeah, just and they take out Starro, and
I just want to say as well, like, I love Starro's last line of like, "Look, I was happy floating in space, looking at the stars."
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Like, that's the stuff that I like that James Gunn and his team does. It's just always that stuff where it's like, yeah, you messed up. Like, everybody messed up, but this dude was just happy looking at the stars, man. And they don't linger on it for too long. It's just like, yeah, man, that sucks. Sorry. Sorry we trapped you, buddy. My bad.
Yep.
And then we get Waller making a deal with Bloodsport over
about the footage.
We got the footage. It's our. You can't fake how it's our fault. So if you don't want this to be leaked, you better leave us alone for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
And then her answer is, deal. So she's not dumb.
I will say, I forgot to mention this at the very start. I do love how much they hype up Bloodsport by saying, oh yeah, he's in here because he put Superman in the ICU.
That's such a good line. I forgot about that. Oh, man.
Because it's like, okay, this guy's clearly a badass. Like, if he
he's the real deal.
In the ICU.
Yep. Oh, man, yeah. And then we do get 2 credit sequences. One is where Weasel wakes up and kind of runs down the beach.
Yeah.
And then the other one, which is the kind of like 2 main techs.
Someone is still alive.
Right. They
surprised their heart keeps beating. It's like, oh, is it flag? Please be flag. Please be flag. No, it's not flag.
It's Peacemaker. Because we've got to save the bleeping world. Just like the dismay in her voice for that is really great.
It's not a toilet bowl on my head, it's a beacon of freedom is another quality choice line, by the way.
Oh, that's so good. I really loved this movie. This for me is easily I think my favorite DCEU movie overall. It's just such a good movie overall. It's one of the few DCEU movies I would go back and watch again. We'll get to our rankings here in a minute. But, you think about like the first Wonder Woman movie. It's like, yeah, I'll watch that again. There's another movie in this season that I'll watch again. But Suicide Squad is just... It's so good, and it definitely feels like a James Gunn movie. It feels like it's like, here, what do you want to do? We're going to give you $100-something million and a giant stacked cast. Go make this movie you wanted to make.
We also didn't talk about the licensed music, which is pretty solid throughout.
It's not bad, yeah.
It's like, at no point does it feel like it's overwriting the movie.
Right.
And at no point does it ever feel really on the nose, we'll say, except for the very first one, which is the title credits one, and that's the Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Which it's the only one that's really on the nose, but everything else I think is pretty solid.
And I like that it's kind of on the nose coming back to it, because it's already a fake movie. Like it's the perfect, it's the song that's too on the nose for a fake intro for a movie that doesn't really happen. Yeah. I don't really have anything bad to say about the Suicide Squad. I think it's really great. And I finished it and I was like, yeah, man, I could watch that again. Sure.
So that's the funny thing is, I think based on just the quality of movie, ignoring the stuff that executives pay attention to, profits and everything else, because this did fine, because this was also a COVID movie, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah,
as far as I know, this one did fine when it comes to monetary. It made its budget back, and but critically, this thing, like from my perspective personally, I can see why James Gunn is like, okay, you're done with Marvel, now you're the head of the DC movie universe, because if this is what you can do with the Suicide Squad,
right, how about we give you all these other people?
Yeah, I mean, is Calendar Man going to be the villain in the next Batman movie? That's the thing I want to know.
Put Sean Gunn in more stuff. He's great.
Like, it's a really good, like, quality wise, I think it's better than pretty much everything that Zack Snyder's done in the DCEU. Like, I just do.
Yep.
One exception being Wonder Woman, maybe close to this, but that's also not Zack Snyder.
Right. And it's just a fun movie to watch. And it doesn't ever really take itself super seriously, which I think is a lot of criticism of a lot of superhero movies, including the stuff that Zack Snyder has done. Like, it's just, it's super fun, and it's just a good, solid watch the entire time.
I have no problem with dark themes, dark tones, and dark everything. One could argue this has got the darkest theme of all, because this has the, hey, our government did this thing and now we're trying to not pretend like it never happened.
Yep.
But at the same time, it feels like what like what the Snyderverse was building to was a darker universe, and I'm fine with that.
Hmm.
But the problem is it built up to it, and it was starting to release that stuff in a world where the actual world, is going to hell.
Yeah, like 2021 having a really dark superhero movie. It's like, nah, I'm good. Thanks.
like, I mean, this is just me speaking for myself here, but I'm kind of done with like super dark themes for a while. Like I've kind of had enough of it.
Yeah.
Like that's the funny thing is the Batman movie, which
Mm-hmm.
is Pattinson's Batman. I think that's a great movie. It's
Yeah.
a dark movie, but it's not like overall thematically dark. Like
Right.
there's a lot of redemption in that story, whereas it feels like in Zack Snyder's DCEU, like there's very little redemption for everybody. It's like, oh, Superman's here, everybody's saved.
Yeah, as much as they talk about hope and that being the important thing for superheroes, yeah, I agree. There just like isn't a lot. It's just like, yeah, Superman's dead. Anyways, that sucks. It's just like, yep, wait, hold on.
I think that's why I liked the first Wonder Woman movie, because that was a movie about hope. That's why I like Shazam, because that was a funny movie.
Yep.
Dark themes again, but overall funny and lighthearted throughout. Like we have seasons in our list on our spreadsheet which are like, these are the movies you watch once and you never watch again.
Right.
Because they are dark content and you really don't want to sit through Requiem for a Dream a second time.
Right.
That is the prime example for everybody out there of that type of movie.
100%.
It feels like if James Gunn can do this with the Suicide Squad, if he can make, and I'm sure the Batman movie will still be thematically dark. I'm sure it will still have dark tones. But at the same time, I bet you the Superman movie is not dark, because that's not a dark superhero.
But it also won't be funny. Like, I think he knows when to balance that stuff of focusing on what the superheroes are good at versus, you know, just having, like, this fun romp. Superman's not going to be ripping people apart and being like, ha-ha, I'm Superman. So,
yeah. Like, that's the thing I could go with. And, yeah, give me an Injustice movie. Give me an Injustice, like, season of, like, movies, whatever. I'm fine with that. I would watch him once.
Yeah.
Like, and probably love it, because that's a big what if kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole, and they could use that to point parallels at today's society with everything that's going on in the world now and for the past 20 years as us as workers and laborers, our rights get eroded into less and less kind of things. Like, reflect that in the movie. Don't just say, oh, the world is bad and Darkseid's going to kill us all. Like, I get it.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm excited about what Gunn can do. I'm actually very excited about season 3 of the DCEU that we've got on the bubble, because it's a lot, mostly less serious characters, we'll say. Like Shazam 2, The Flash, which
Aquaman
is a time
2?
skip movie. Aquaman 2 and Blue Beetle, who is a Hispanic hero. And I'm really excited to see that kind of stuff. Like, from what I understand, James Gunn had nothing but positive things to say about James Gunn and Zack Snyder had nothing but positive things to say about the Blue Beetle being a Hispanic hero in a world representing a superhero. So
interesting.
Give me that stuff. Like, I'm very excited for that stuff, but I kind of had enough of the Zack Snyder side of things for a while.
I think after we watched the last movie, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I think I've seen what I need to see. I think we're done here. So, before we get done here, let's talk about ratings for this movie, and then we'll do our rankings. Suicide Squad rated 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, 90% tomato meter, 82% audience score, and it's a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
This is 8 and 9 for me. Easy.
Yeah, I'm at the like 9 to 9.5 sort of thing. Having grown up with the trauma stuff, I think the level of violence in this kind of, the like level of fun violence in it, which I know sounds like a dichotomy, but that level,
it's not Saw. It's not human torture.
Right. That sort of stuff really tickles me. But yeah, like we're saying, it's great. It's great the entire time
Mhm.
through, and I have really no criticisms about it. It's super good.
No, it's shocking how well executed this was, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was one of those movies that Warner Brothers also sent out to die as well, because I'm pretty sure they released it to theaters when theaters were barely open
Yeah,
again
in
during the pandemic.
2021. Yep, everyone's like, "Oh, you're releasing it to theaters. Okay, that's not a good idea, sure." Uh,
Hmm.
boy. All right. Let's do our rankings here. We have 6 movies this time. Moon, what is your number 6th movie? This is a tough one.
I'm torn between like two.
I'm trying to figure out what my number 6 is too. I'm also torn between 2 movies.
Birds of Prey.
Yeah. I think that's my number 6 too.
It is a fine movie. It has great moments, but it is completely unnecessary and does a lot of quote unquote storytelling that's not like great. Like we said,
Hmm.
introducing the Huntress in the last 10 minutes of the movie with zero like
Right.
story. The worst part is she's the best part of that movie, and
Yep.
like you only give her like 20 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor is fine, but he's not like a really great villain. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It
it's
it it
it's
just never
it's a
gets there.
serviceable movie. Yeah.
Yeah. You can see the kind of rays of light through the clouds. Where you're like, oh, okay, and you could see a movie that like James Gunn could be in charge of that movie, and you could see something that would be really stellar coming out of
Hmm.
Suicide Squad. It just never. It's also my number 6. Like it's not a terrible movie. It just never gets there. So,
Yeah.
what's your number 5?
Are we ready for the controversy?
Okay,
It's Zack Snyder's Justice League.
okay,
I don't feel it was worth it. It was completely unnecessary. Like it it added a little bit
hmm
to the original movie and like the Flash and Cyborg story, which I genuinely like those moments. But it was also 4 hours and change and completely unnecessary. It felt like
yeah. I think maybe you changed my mind here. Maybe my number
because like
5 is Snyder League. Maybe my number 5 is
because
Snyder League too.
by the time it came out, you also knew that this was not a universe that was going to exist anymore. Like everything had already
Yeah,
been like shut down.
that's true.
So that makes it like 10 times worse that they did this to try and give more fuel to a cinematic universe that is not going to exist or matter even by the time it came out.
Right. Yeah, maybe you convinced me. Maybe my number 5 is also that because it's just it felt what's the word I used when we were talking about it? Just like indulgent. That's the word. It feels
Mhm.
indulgent. Like you're the DCEU is dying, like you said. Like the planet is already gonna blow up. You're pouring a bunch of more money into it. It's like, man, just say goodbye. It's
Yeah,
fine. It can be over. Yeah.
yeah. It's just completely unnecessary, and if you love it, then you love it. That's absolutely fine. But like for me, yes, it adds the Cyborg and Flash stories, but it also takes out Batman being a leader, which is kind of
Hmm.
what he is.
Yeah.
Like
Such a shame.
it's I don't know. It's
Yeah.
whatever. It's Justice League. That's fine. I'm fine with that being my number 5.
Yeah. What's your number
It gets
4?
difficult again at this point, if I'm completely honest.
I think my number 4 is pretty easy here.
Hold on. 6, 5. I've got that one, that one,
Through process of
that one, and
elimination,
that
I
one.
have my number 4.
Is it Wonder Woman 1984?
Not for me.
Because I'm torn. It's either Wonder Woman or Aquaman. Goes right here.
I
I'm assuming for you it's Aquaman.
Yeah, for me it's Aquaman because again, this is another fine movie. This one definitely also felt too long. It's also had like too many scenes of just like, Aquaman, I have something important to tell you, or like, I have something important to hand to you, and then something comes busting through the wall like 20 different times. It's fine. It just it's another case of a DCEU movie that just doesn't get there. Like, you could see all the pieces and you could see how they would fit together, and they just don't fit together the right way. And it's just such a bummer for it, because everybody in there is good. Just the movie didn't happen.
Yeah, but dude, he also rides a giant kraken, the shrimp tentacle monster.
I know, that thing is really cool.
So Wonder Woman 1984 is my number 4 for very similar reasons. And to be honest, it's because literally halfway through that movie, I could cut that movie right at the point where they go to the Middle East.
Just
to the
snip
end.
out half an hour.
Snip out like that whole section, and I think it's a much smoother and better movie. I love the Stranger in a Strange Land stuff, which I talked about on that episode. So Steve being there is great, but also the consent issue there is very problematic.
Yeah,
we'll say.
Yep.
And the villain just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah,
I love what's his face. I can never remember his name. The guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I love him. I think he performs spectacularly. I think it's a horrible like villain for that story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about an hour and a half too long, and it's like 2.5 hours of a movie. Like
it's really rough.
And not even going to talk about how bad they did with Kristen Wiig. Like the nastiness that they did to her at the end of that movie is just like it's another CG fight at the end.
It's another CG nightmare. Like, come on.
Like, it's kind of whatever. But yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 is my 4, which means my 3 is Aquaman.
Okay.
For exactly what you said. And I'm going to guess that your number 3 is Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah, and pretty much for the reasons that you said. I like Kristen Wiig in this more, I think, than you do. Because I like seeing her in something so different, and I like
her all the way through till the transformation. Like,
once they do, it's like
after the fight at the White House, I don't like her anym's but all the way up to that fight at the White House where she's literally wrecking shop on everybody.
It's such a good scene. It's so, that movie is so frustrating because it's another one of those where I think they get more of it right for me than Aquaman does. Maybe because I like Wonder Woman more as like a hopeful superhero. But you're right, like, so much of it needs to be cut. You're gonna explain away that whole Middle Eastern scene of just being like, woof. Do you see that stuff you did in the Middle East? He's got a lot of bombs now. Wild. Anyways. And it just, like the first movie, it just kind of falls apart at the end. In a way that is a real bummer, when you could have elevated this movie into being something else. You have a CG nightmare, you have a fight scene that doesn't really make sense, and a message that is pretty unrealistic, and it's just a bummer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that leaves us with, what's your number 2?
I think we're both the same on this one. Shazam is number 2.
100%. Easy.
It's so good, dude. Like, that movie is so good. It's so much better than it has any right to be.
Say my name. I just met you.
Yeah, that right there is like, so like the kids' comedy timing is really, really solid, and having Zach Levi be like the adult version of him, I think, is fantastic.
It's such good casting.
Like, casting all around in that, I think, is fantastic. Not even talking about Seth Cohen being the grown-up version of the dorky kid with the crutches. Like, again,
he has a
casting.
Collectible signed bullet that bounced off of Superman. Like,
yeah,
that's so good. Yeah, that was another movie. That's the other movie from the DCEU. Like, I would happily watch the first Wonder Woman. I would watch Suicide Squad, like we talked about, and I would happily watch Shazam. Like, at any point. Like, Shazam is just... It's so well done, and it really gets its source material, and it really gets the tone right, and it's consistent the entire way through, and has a really solid payoff at the end,
Mhm.
and actually nails it.
And it does that whole thing as well of poking fun of the fan base at the same
Yes.
time in a really clever way. Like
Yep.
the kid having like the Batman t-shirts and the Superman t-shirts and the posters on the wall and everything like that is just like, okay, this is kind of cool what you did here.
Yeah.
Like that whole introduction to the world through the eyes of the dorky kid. And
Hmm.
I like the fact that Billy doesn't get a happy ending. Well, he doesn't get the quote unquote traditional happy ending.
Right.
He finds his mother, and his mother is not interested in him at all.
His mother
And then,
sucks.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he realizes that thing that we all realize as grown-ups, especially if you come from questionable families, is it's not your family is not whose blood runs through your veins. Your family
Right.
is the family you make it.
Right.
And like that being the overall lesson in this movie, and having that ending of being like, yeah, okay, she's not my family, this is my family.
Yeah.
And not even talking about the mom and the dad's performance, which is just stellar
They're really
from the
good.
get-go in that
Yep.
movie too. Like Shazam is way underrated for how great that movie is. Like
Yep.
that should be higher on everybody's lists.
Yeah. Which means number one is Suicide Squad. With a
Suicide
bullet.
Squad, yeah.
Pun intended.
Mhm.
With a smaller bullet.
It's unreal how good how
Yeah.
he did that with this franchise, with this branding.
Right.
Is hilarious to me. And again, I like the fact that they waste 10 minutes at the start of the movie to set up a squad that die instantly just to really reinforce the premise of the movie.
And what's really interesting is we talked about it in the intro, but he really does make lightning strike twice, because this is the same thing, not to the same level, but it's the same thing he did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Like it's obviously he could have just like X-ray photocopy, like he could have just photocopied that first movie and just like, here we go, Suicide Squad, we're good, licensed music, we love it. But like he took a different tack with it and was successful in a similar way the second time, which I think is genuinely incredible.
Yeah, and the fact that like he sticks to the premise of each one. Like Guardians was all about building that team.
Yeah.
And the individual disparate units coming together to work as a team. Whereas in this, it's called the Suicide Squad. He understands the source material because he builds up 2 squads and kills one of them completely.
Right.
Like that in itself is such great execution, because you look at the first Suicide Squad, and the first Suicide Squad sets everybody up, but only like what, 2 people die?
Yeah.
Like 3 people maybe?
Right.
Whereas this version of it, it's like, no, here is an entire squad that is dead, essentially.
And then he still kills like Pokemon,
Most of the second
or
team.
Polka Dot Man. Like he still kills him at his moment of
And
victory
Flag.
later. And Flag, yeah, like 2 of your most beloved characters in this movie. Like, yeah, it's shockingly great, and that's the hard part of the DCEU for me, is you get these like rough, not getting it together movies that are like 2.5, 3.5 out of 5, and it's just like, yeah, it was fine. It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't unwatchable. And then you get stuff like Shazam and Suicide Squad, where it's like, yeah, I gotta keep plodding through the DCEU, because for every Black Adam that's out there, you got a Blue Beetle, and you got some redeeming stuff out there.
Yep.
So,
And oh boy, we have both of those in the next season, by the way.
yeah, that's a hot, I think, 5 movies in the 3rd season for
It
us
is.
to kind of put the capstone on top of the first attempt at the DCEU.
At the DCU, yeah.
Which sounds like is just going to be, like we've talked about, sounds like it's just going to be
It's
completely
pretty much going
erased.
to be wiped out.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, I believe the Blue Beetle is considered, I think James Gunn has said he is part of the new DC universe.
Okay, so it's like a soft your Incredible Hulk soft intro.
Yes, there's that, and I think apparently potentially something that happens in the Flash movie can also help explain the whole situation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Obviously, it can't because it's the Flash and he travels through time and dimensions.
Do literally everything. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you're a patron, or if you're not, go ahead and go sign up over at patreon.com/E1M1.
Those ones are the numbers.
At the $5 or higher tier, that's where you can get the production meeting, the one where Moon and I are kind of planning, and for the next season, we're kind of trying to figure out which seasons we're removing or adding, or which ones we're kind of shaping in a different way. Usually we come into there with no agenda, and then we come out with like 17 more seasons, and then a season we didn't think we were going to do and weren't planning to do before we went in there.
Yes.
That is
a right to strike interferes with what we're doing.
that's right. We just have to take a hard left all of a sudden. But yeah, those are, if you haven't listened to any of them, there's a new feature that Patreon
Not
rolled
kid
out.
friendly.
But yeah, number
the
one,
way.
uncensored, for real. There's a hot one a couple seasons ago that is definitely explicit and uncensored. But if you're interested in
You're
any
talking
of
about
our
the monsters again. I know what you're talking about.
it's so good. But there's a new feature on Patreon. If you haven't listened to any of our stuff and you're curious about it, you can get a 5-minute preview of every episode that's up there. So if you want to listen to just the beginning of some of our stuff, it's usually a pretty good indication of, the first 5 minutes of that episode is probably going to give you a pretty good indication of what the rest of the rest of the hour is gonna go. So go check all of that out. And go please sign up at the $5 tier or higher over at patreon.com/E1M1.
Ones are numbers. Number one.
Thank you so much, everyone, joining us for yet another season. Season 23 is in the books. We appreciate it. We love you watching and listening and subscribing and all of that. Really do appreciate it. And we'll see you all next season. Bye.
Bye.